Well, everyone, it's another happy day. We get to talk about another gaming console, and this time around, it is the PlayStation 3 Slim. Now, for those of you who don't know, PlayStation made the PlayStation 3 several years ago, but they also made the PlayStation 3 Slim and the Super Slim, and I've made a ton of videos on PlayStations throughout my life on YouTube, and I think the PlayStation 3 Slim is one of those consoles that I like. It has a lot of cool little things going for it. It's definitely not perfect, but I think for a design change, I'm pretty happy with the way PlayStation went around with the PS3 Slim. But again, it's not perfect. It had a lot of issues. And I think even nowadays, it's still one of those consoles that I would kind of, skip over for some people and maybe go straight to a PlayStation 4, even the original model. But the PlayStation 3 Slim had a couple cool features here and there. But its main feature was the slimmer form factor for that matter. Now, before I get too deep in this, we have to go ahead and cover the exterior, specifically the body of this console. Now, going from PlayStation 3 to the PS3 Slim, you can see that there were some iconic things that kind of got removed with the PS3. First of all, when you think of a PS3, you definitely don't think of this console. You think of the original PlayStation 3 with its glossy front and with its power button and all that stuff and the controller in front of it, all that stuff. The PS3 Slim, on the other hand, was a console that was kind of supposed to be a slimmer factor. It was just supposed to be a skinnier, smaller version of the PlayStation 3. So that's the biggest feature of this specific console, in my opinion. But on top of that, one of my downsides of this console was the lack of essentially, the backwards compatibility. You couldn't play PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 1 games on this console. And it's so funny because I said I was going to hit on the body, but I just keep thinking of that. That was one of the craziest things that ever happened. Now, on the front of the PS3 Slim, we have this matte texture on the front, which I do like. I love the way it looks. I think it looks very, very cool, and it still looks very current. This console doesn't really look that old, and I think that is a humongous feature of this specific device. And I think when you pick up this console and you still look at it nowadays, you can see that it still looks very common. It still looks very current. And as I mentioned before, and I'll continue to say this, I think that is this console's biggest asset. And in terms of looking at it and feeling it, looking at this console, it visually looks really good in my opinion. You have the standard disc slot, power button, but you also have two USB ports on the front as well, which I'm really happy about. Sony could have easily put one in the front. We've seen that with other consoles coming out recently, but having those two USB ports on the front is something I was really happy to see for this type of console. Now, on the back, we do get essentially kind of like the same type of setup as before. Nothing super crazy, to be honest. You have the standard Ethernet port, which I'm really happy to go ahead and plug things in. You have an HDMI port, which I'm really happy to see. Some other connectors, and then you also have the AC adapter as well. And you have the fan, the cooling system on the back. And that was another kind of, asset for this device, which was essentially a quieter cooling system. And everything else about this console was almost the same, but you do get essentially a cooler console, which is kind of cooler, and it didn't, sound as loud as something like a PlayStation 3. For those of you who remember, essentially when the PlayStation 3 came out, one of the biggest problems with it was that it was so loud when it was trying to cool down the console. And because it was so big, you had a humongous console you had to cool down, so those fans would essentially just have to be ramped up all the time. So I'm really happy Sony went ahead and essentially fixed that problem in a way. But by fixing that problem, they did kind of go ahead and remove the backwards compatibility, which, as I mentioned before, was kind of an annoyance at the end of the day. Now, beyond that, around this console, you already kind of know what it looks like because I hit on it. But specifically, I will tell you, one of my favorite things about this console, even now in 2021, is just the game selection that you have for this type of device. You all know this. The PlayStation 3 Slim and the PlayStation 3 console in general essentially has so many games out for this thing. You can pick up so many different games for this thing that it's so crazy. All those Call of Duties, any other games that came out. I mean, there's just so many. It's not even funny. All Crashes came out for this thing, Spyros. A lot of different games came out for the PlayStation 3, and the PlayStation 3 Slim is a solid console in the middle ground because a lot of these PS3 Slims are actually cheaper in the used market than the standard PlayStation 3. The main reason for this is because it lacked backwards compatibility. Because of that, less people wanted to buy it, and nowadays even less people want to buy it now because the PlayStation 3 is still being sold and still has all those features. So with the PS3 Slim, you're kind of in a better situation because you can pick them up for cheaper, which is kind of funny. But on top of that, like I mentioned, the games for this console is the thing that makes it so beautiful, and it still holds up extremely well. And another big thing about the PS3 Slim was the decrease in the power that it drew from, your electricity. So essentially it was taking in less power to play the same amount of games, so it was a more efficient console for the PlayStation 3 devices, which I think is really cool. Does it make it the best PlayStation 3 that ever came out, or the best PlayStation console? Definitely not the best PlayStation console. You might be able to give that to the PS3, but I will tell you, the PlayStation 3 Slim still has a lot of capability. Going through the UI, playing those games, having a good time with it. I mean, this console still has a lot going for it. It's definitely not perfect, but I think for the games that this thing had, and for the fact that you're still able to download some games from online sources, I think that is a really good thing about this console for sure. Now again, it's not perfect, and there's also been, as far as I know, a couple of mods that came out for this thing. I don't think it's been anything super crazy, but you can actually go ahead and modify this console as well. And that is another pretty big asset when you have these type of devices and these consoles. Modifying these things and just getting more capability from that is one of my favorite things to see. And again, with something like the PlayStation 3 Slim, you get that capability at a much cheaper price tag than even most PlayStation 3s, the standard original ones that have been coming out. Now, another thing that PlayStation essentially fixed was lowering the price tag a little bit. When the Slim came out, it was essentially, it was supposed to be able to be a cheaper console in some ways, and because of that, Sony just really tried to focus in on the way the console looked, and I'm not too sure why they did that. I think at that time, a lot of people wanted a slimmer console. I think some people may have seen the Xbox 360, and even essentially, this is such a stretch, maybe even they saw the Wii U that didn't sell that well, and they were like, hey, we need to make a slimmer console, because if you remember, the PlayStation 3 in the beginning it actually didn't sell extremely well. Like, it sold kind of good, but compared to the 360, it didn't sell as well. The Wii U was the worst out of all of them, but Sony wanted to go ahead and change things up, and I think at that time, they probably thought that the console was too thick. So they slimmed it down, but by taking away that backwards compatibility, that was one of the best things about the PlayStation 3. I knew some people who owned PS3s at the time, and I loved playing with it. I think it was awesome, but I never really saw that big of a difference between the PS3 and the PS3 Slim in terms of a gameplay standpoint. They both played games the same. Of course, when you're playing those bigger, heavier games, so if you're playing something like GTA 5 on this thing, you are definitely going to be getting a much more, not laggier experience, but you're going to be getting a much more, louder experience from your PlayStation 3 on the standard PlayStation 3 than on the PS3 Slim. So with that smaller system and with that better cooling system, you're getting, better gameplay and just a better experience overall. So to kind of sum up this video, I'll tell you, I think the PlayStation 3 Slim is still worth it in 2021, but I don't think it's worth more than this original PlayStation 3. I think that original PS3 has so much going for it. It has a ton of capability, and it's just more, I think, of a community behind the original PS3 than the PS3 Slim. The PS3, the original one, has that backwards compatibility for every console before the PS3, which was really awesome, and I think there are more mods out for the original PlayStation 3 than the PS3 Slim. Does that automatically mean that the PS3 Slim is the better console or the worst console? No, but there are a lot of features the original PS3 has that the standard PlayStation 3 Slim doesn't have, so it is something to keep in mind. If you're going to buy one, I would probably recommend buying the PS3 original one, but like I mentioned, they are sometimes more expensive than the PS3 Slim. So if you're trying to save the most amount of money, maybe getting a PS3 Slim is a better way to go, but I think the original PlayStation 3 or PS3 Slim are good options no matter what. I just really wish that, Sony could kind of take a step up for their PS3 Super Slim. I think the Super Slim is an awesome console, but I just wish they added the backwards compatibility. I think that would have been really awesome. And beyond that, there wasn't really too much of a, community behind that console as well. So in terms of that pretty much covers it up. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.